Hey everyone, welcome back to Stitch Happen. Today I'm going to go over the fonts with you in the BES4 lettering software. If you don't know what BES4 is, it is an embroidery and lettering software put out by Brother. I do have a video going over the basic starter overviews if you're not familiar with it, but today I wanted to dig a little deeper into the font section. So let's dive right in. We have our fonts up here where you can select and click on your screen, which brings up your properties on your right hand side. And that's what I kind of wanted to dig in with you today. The first font that it brings up is always Aiden, and see our different fonts here. Next to your fonts, that is going to give you options. I will show you about that as well. So let's just click. This is a pretty one. All right, so I'm going to go into text and type in I. So first thing is I like to pull up the size hoop that I'm going to be using. So maybe I'm going to put it on a shirt. Just going to pull up my 4x4 hoop and hit apply so I can visualize it a lot better, as well as turn it into 3D mode so I can see what it's going to look like stitched out. Now, all of these little icons do something different, and I use them all the time. First, we're going to go to our left-hand arrow, which we can bring up and down, which changes the size. This keeps it proportionate, which is very important to know, because if we know we want it large, say wide for a 4x4 hoop, then we can go to our bottom right hand arrow and pull it in to make it a little skinny. Now this does not keep it proportionate. It's something you need to know, because you can end up looking like this, which is not very cute. Where it looks a little better. Now, your top right hand side, you have the rotate, which allows you to rotate it around. Then we can come up here to our undo. These different blue diamonds do something as well. So the square allows you to grab the letter individually, where you can move them around. And that is too far over, or a Y that's dropped down too much, or this, it just kind of off to you. Want to do it like a fun around by grabbing the blue individually. Doing the undo, my favorite button. Now, the blue diamonds in between each letter are the spacing. It grabs whatever is behind what you have chosen and allows you to fix the spacing in between there. Now, speaking of spacing, if you want to do them all at the same time, you can actually come over here to your right hand side and type a spacing. Let's do something crazy like 3. To really put in a gap, you can put your spacing 0, as well as change. And the I like to the arrows so I can kind of see and judge it, or if you know that you're wanting 1 inch exactly, maybe it's easier to type it in right here. Now, the bottom left hand, you can plant in it, kind of italicize it, as well as typing that in right here on your right hand side. Or not for everyone, but for if I am doing a hat, instead of sewing right, which kind of pushes your hat to the side, you want to sew from the center out on a hat, which will allow you to start in the middle. I'll show you. So it's going to start with the M. I'm running my sequence down here on the left hand side. And then go out, which won't push the hat too far to one side. So, I mean, you're not going to use it often, but I would definitely use it when it comes to doing things like hats. Now, select, and this will give you in your design, get that 3D look. It just depends on what look you're going for today. I'm not wanting to use that. So I'm going to go back to normal with my favorite undo button. Now this is really very important. If you don't take anything from this video, please take this. The fill. Okay. So a regular stitch is a satin stitch, which goes back and forth. If you look close, boom, 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 back and forth, back and forth. Now the larger your design is, maybe if you can kind of see the gaps. Okay, back and forth, right? Now if you have a very large design, say maybe on the front of a sweater, that satin stitch can easily get nicked and come right out. See how wide that is? Now, if you are under 2 inches, you're fine. Okay? It's going to be, the satin stitch will be okay. If you are doing over a 2-inch design, your density is down here on the right hand side. See how it shows the satin stitches? You're going to want to drop your density down to a 3. And if you notice, it's going to fill in some stitches. Okay, that's between like 1 to 2 kind of inches. Now if you're doing something larger than 2.5 to 3 inches, okay, so if we're getting bigger and bigger here, dropping that density down is not going to be enough, which is what this warning is saying. Okay, so I'm going to change it back to what it was before, which was a 4 on the density, and it's saying, hey, it's not going to sew right. That's what this warning is saying. So what we're going to do is, instead of using a regular satin stitch, we're going to drop down and change the pattern of the stitches. Okay, now you can do a little design in it with maybe the little cornrow or random snake skin, but I like to use smooth. Now this is going to add the number of stitches tremendously. It is going to multiply them really high. But if you look close, you have a fill stitch that stitches in between there. It's going to take a lot longer, but it is not going to come out. All right, but you do not want to do this on light fabrics, right? That's just too much stitching for light fabrics. So I would do this for something like the full fronts of shirts, maybe sweaters, jackets, something thick, something that you're going to do large. This will ensure that it looks smooth and flat and that it's not going to come out later, especially if you're doing it for customers. You don't want them to come back later and say, oh, it just pulled right out, I broke it, and it was no good. Okay, so that is very important. If you're doing like over 2.5 to 3 inches, I highly recommend doing a fill stitch. All right, a new page, things I do want to show you. Let's go back up here to the fonts. And like I said about that O means you have options. Like, what do you mean? What are my options? You can do a run stitch. Technically means, in my head, it means options, right? Because that, for sure, that's what it's saying. So for example, we can go to blast and then come down here and choose standard with run. Let's just see. So that allows you to kind of play with it a little more. Oh, so it does a run stitch around the edge. With warning again, because on a thick font, it's telling me like, hey, you're going to want the satin stitch to not be too wide. So that is the overview of the fonts. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I would love to help you. And as always, happy stitching.